Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I'm going to be going over a couple videos today. But before I do, please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube. I have Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. So please subscribe to all of them. So this new channel that I have on YouTube is the Studio-Reykjavik. So the link is in this video. Please click it and subscribe. In addition, please follow me on X and on GETTR and on Facebook. And if you could, please help support my news coverage by donating on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. So before I start, I'm going to start with probably the market. Let me start with the market here. This is going to cover a few different topics. The market, the financial market for the S&P 500, as of this recording, is trading at 5,276. So I was saying on several videos, and I've done a video showing the fib sequences, right? And the resistance levels and the support levels. Well, if today closes above the 5,250 mark, then there is higher probability that it will march up to 550 for the S&P 500 traded as SPY. So that index trading fund is SPY. So the next target is upward, and that's at 550. All right. Still, again, the resistance levels are going to be at the 525 mark, and the 483 mark, and the 450 mark. So there is more upside. Now we'll reevaluate it after it hits the 550 mark for SPY, but it's looking like in a short amount of time, in weeks, that we will see a 550 on SPY. All right. But there could be downside risk. There's some stress with commercial real estate, having them refinanced, and there would be stress with the banks. So that's a headwind. Inflation's a headwind. So it's not 100%, but there looks like there's enough energy to at least get to the 550 mark, and then we'll reevaluate. All right. So for the ones that have been paying attention to me, what I did was what I told people to do, and what I did was to take about 12 to 15% of their cash that they had back when the S&P 500 hit about 5, the SPY hit 500, and to take that into cash, put it into cash, either a money market or whatever, and to hold that in cash, and to keep the other 85% in equity and let it ride. For the ones that paid attention to me, just be patient here. Wait to see if there's a failure of the structure that's being built up as this is railing towards 550. If it starts to go down, let's say if it touches 550 and drops down to 500, then that's probably time to redeploy that cash into equity. Maybe half of it, maybe all of it. All right. So, if it was 12%, 6%, half of it maybe should be redeployed into equity. If it goes beyond the 550, keep it in cash just for that correction that will come, but we don't know really where. There's some talk that the correction might take place at 550 mark. There's more talk about it taking place at the 600 mark. So there's more probability of really cashing in from the benefit of the correction at the 600 mark on the S&P 500. So just wait, just wait. But if the market fails at this point, at the 5.2, right now it's trading at 5.27. So if it fails at the 5.30 mark or whatever, and it starts to go down, wait until it hits about the 480 and then redeploy. The chances of it bouncing off of the 483 mark and then coming back up is high probability. There's a lower probability it going to 450 and then coming back up. 450 is a very strong support level. So, if there is a structural failure, it probably will test the 483 mark. That's probably a good time to deploy the cash. Probably 100% of it. You're at 12% or 15%, 100% of that, redeploy it. So just wait. 550 probably will bounce down. If there's not enough energy, come to the 500 and then maybe redeploy half of your cash. If it drops down to 483, make sure you deploy all of the extra cash. All right. But most likely this is going to go to 550, maybe come down a little bit above the 500 mark, probably the 525 mark, maybe a little bit below that, and then march up to 600. 600, that's probably a time to maybe start reevaluating, maybe take a little bit more off the table and add some to your cash position to wait for that correction. But we have to reevaluate it. We got to see how the structure is starting to build up. But it's looking as though it's going to march to 550 on the S&P 500. With that said, oil today is trading down for WTI. And the Rafah incursion by Israel is happening. There was some announcement that a base in Tel Aviv was burning. So there's a little bit of activity, but not a lot. There's not a lot where it's really driving the news. It's kind of almost, it feels like actually kind of a little bit of a low day. So let's just drop into Al Jazeera and see what they have to say about Biden and this Israel-Hamas conflict.
Much lobby that is also very pro-Democrat as well. And so this is the problem for a president who is trying to keep both sides happy and win another term in the White House. So what we see right now going on is the president essentially saying, look, we sent the message to Benjamin Netanyahu that there is a limit to what we will do. And that was done with that pause and that sort of sectioning off of what type of weaponry would be sent. Now that message has been sent, it is full steam ahead with the other types of weapons that the United States will send. What is notable, though, very quickly, is the fact that this tool is being exercised, something we've not really seen since Ronald Reagan was in office.
Kimberly Halkett, our White House correspondent, with that update. Thanks, Kimberly. Let's bring you some breaking news coming out of the Gaza Strip. Now, there's been a large attack on the centre of Gaza City. Hani Mahmoud is in there about outside of the Al-Aqsa Hospital. Hani, just bring us up to speed on what we think has happened. We are getting, you might say, mobile phone footage of the aftermath of what seems to be a large explosion, an attack in Gaza City.
Yes, within the past 45 minutes, drones seem to have fired a missile on a group of on a July street.
What's interesting about this news, and this is why I mentioned about the oil price, with this news popping up, I'm looking at the spot for oil, it's actually gone up.
The vast majority of people here have family members in the southern part, in the central, and trying either to get hold of them, to talk to them, to make sure that they're okay, or to try just to keep up with the news, just to understand where they are going, where they're supposed to be going as the Israeli military intensifies its attacks in the northern part and Gaza City, where they were attacked deliberately. And this is not the first time we've seen this kind of pattern of attacks on civilians gathering in large groups, either if at a food distribution point or at an internet connection or even at a solar powered access point to charge their phones or computers. Happened repeatedly in the past.
SPY is still
over
trading
5 times. The worst of
higher.
this was in GETTR one where at least 12 people were killed as they were trying to get internet connection. So far, what we learned from the civil defense, a crew member in Gaza, that 3 people were transferred to Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital. That's a Gaza square where it's located. They arrived at the hospital already dead bodies. There are few more who are at a critical condition, and we're expecting the number to increase.
And over the past 24 hours, we've seen Israeli forces pushing deeper into Gaza, both from the north and the south. Where should we be focusing our attention right now?
Well, the Israeli military has already pushed deeper its majority of the troops, tanks, and ground forces to the center part of Jabalia. But there also be reports, confirmed reports of extreme clashes and confrontations between Palestinian fighting groups in Jabalia and Al Square with the Israeli military. But as the Israeli military pushed deeper at the center of Jabalia refugee camp, it destroyed the vast majority of the remaining essential buildings, the public facilities, including the evacuation centers. And those evacuation centers are managed and operated by UNRWA, that's the United Nations for Palestinian Refugees, where hundreds of displaced families from other parts of the northern part of the district have been sheltering. And right now, they're either trapped inside these evacuation centers or they don't know where to go, as they were sharply ordered into further enforced displacement to the western part of Gaza City that is largely unsafe right now. The Israeli military issued a statement talking about attacks and targets of Hamas infrastructure in Jabalia refugee camp. But what we've seen on the ground, from the reports that we are getting, is from either the civil defense crew members are trying to help. The vast majority of people targeted are civilians among the displaced families inside evacuation centers or inside residential homes. The Israeli military also expanded its enforced displacement orders into further northern parts, to Beit Lahia and around Kamal Adwan Hospital and the surrounding areas, pushing more people into further internal displacement and causing further civilian casualties. The civil defense group members are unable to reach to areas where the Israeli military has full control, just increasing the risk of people losing their lives in these areas.
I'm speaking just from Deir on the phone. The images you're seeing on your screen here on Al Jazeera English are a recent Israeli attack in the last few minutes from Gaza City. Many injured, we believe just as many dead. We're not sure what the numbers are yet. We'll try and clarify that for you in the coming minutes. On to the day's other news now. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Because this is PNN, I have to go to commercial. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and click the link in the video. They'll take you to the store. But get the structural nano silver that I have in the 30 ppm. I also have it in 14 ppm, which is max 14. And I also have max 35, which is 35 ppm. You take a teaspoon of it a day. If you're not feeling well, take a tablespoon or 2 a day. It'll help to neutralize pathogens. What you do is you swish it in your mouth, gargle, swallow. If you do that every day, you're going to be boosting up your immune system. Because we're in the allergy season, right? And if you noticed, there is temperature gradient differences compared to last year. And also it's a wetter year. All right. There's more precipitation, at least in the East Coast. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, click the link, and get the structural nano silver drops. I have it in honey lemon in 100 count. I also have it in blueberry in 100 count, and elderberry zinc in a 21 count, which is a larger lozenges. So the drops are smaller, the lozenges are larger. But you want to have that in your house. Get a couple bags of it, have it in your house. The moment you start feeling a little irritation, take these. It'll help to soothe it. It'll help to neutralize, and it will bring down that allergic reaction. So please go to the store and get a few bags of these for your household. Now, when you purchase the liquids, the structural nano silver liquids, I advise that you also get the applicator if you don't have it in your household. These applicators are great, so you can carry the liquid in your bag to be able to spray surfaces, spray your hands, spray the back of your throat. There's a dropper, there's a spritzer, and there's a nasal spray. So you can put the liquid in there and carry that structural nano silver liquid with you without carrying a big bottle in your bag. It's great for moms to have it in their purse, or to take it to work, or to use it on their kids, whatever. But it's a great item. So go to the store and get the 3 applicator set. And lastly, I have a silver gel. It's an extra strength silver gel in a dispenser, so it's easy to carry in your bag. And you put that on your skin. It'll neutralize pathogens for 5 hours. Okay, it'll stay active for 5 hours. So you just use it on your hands. You put it around your face, around your mouth, lightly coat your nostrils, around your ears, around your eyes. All right, and it will protect you. All right, from pathogens, and this will help to boost up your immune system, because you're trying to create a barrier and trying to neutralize antigens. All right. So in addition, you can use it as a skincare. So you can put it on your skin and for, like, let's say abrasions or minor burns, cuts, and it'll help to heal. Why does it help to heal and speed up the healing process? Because it keeps the wound clean. All right. In addition, if you put it on your body at night and you exfoliate it, if you exfoliate the surface in the morning, and you do that on a regular basis, you'll notice that your skin is clearer and healthier. So you can use it as a skincare product. And people that have been using it, you'll also notice when you wake up in the morning that your skin's tighter, especially in the face. So I recommend using the gel. I have 2 different types of gel. But go to the store and get the silver gel, and it'll help you to neutralize pathogens. But not just that, it will help with the skincare. So it's a dual purpose product. So please go to the store, help support my work, help to heal your body, help to boost up your immune system. If you follow my advice, you can get healthy. You're going to have a better immune system. You're going to extend longevity, not just increase the number of years, but the good years. If you do this every day, if you follow my advice and take my products, you're going to notice the healing that's taking place in your immune system is starting to become more robust. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
First and foremost, the government should use in order not to let it happen. In case this happens, yes, there will be consequences, but we are not yet there, and I sincerely hope that we will not be there.
So it all boils down to the veto procedure. President Salomon.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down to Fox News talking about the anti-Israeli agitators with Seinfeld. All right. Before I do that, I was able to attend an event that discussed the encampment at Harvard in the yard. This was a couple days ago. And that event was very interesting. Okay. And there were some key takeaways, all right, from that event. One is it was shocking to me that the deans of the different schools, so Harvard University has different schools, and each school has a dean. Well, the deans of the school are the ones that really control the discipline of the student of that school. All right. So if you have an encampment that is, let's say, 50% Harvard College, and let's say another 50%, for simplicity in the argument here, from the Harvard Law School, then you are dealing with two deans, and the president doesn't have the authority for disciplinary action, right? So for this type of situation. So this is part of the reason why there's like this infighting that's going on within Harvard, because if you have deans that some want to discipline the agitators, the camp, the Occupy camp, right, and you have others that don't want to, then it's hard to disband the whole thing. So there is a governance issue dealing with who has power with what. It's shocking that that is allowed, and that there needs to be sometimes unilateral decision making at the presidential level of the university. So at the time, the thought was that the encampment would remain all the way into commencements. Well, yesterday, we received a letter, the alumni and the Harvard community at large received a letter stating that there was going to be a disbanding of the encampment. So there was an agreement, and there's going to be a peaceful disbandment of the camp. I don't know if that has taken place already. I think it has. So it's, from what I've been told, it seems as though the encampment will not be there for the commencements, and that there's going to be some sort of dialogue with the student body and the university about, talking about these matters. Now, they're obviously the students are going to be pushing free Palestine, right, and all this stuff, right? But it seems as though it's de-escalated, and it de-escalated more peacefully compared to what was going on, let's say, at Fordham or at UCLA or at University of Texas or Columbia, right, or even NYU. So it's an ongoing event. Who knows? And maybe something changes, but it does seem as though it's de-escalated differently compared to Columbia. So I find that interesting, and how commencements will be, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure that they're going to have these ultra liberals, with their cap, having some sort of protest statement. And I'm sure people will be wearing AirFat garb, during the commencements. I just wish the university would, and all universities, not just Harvard, all universities would say, this is an occasion for the family and for the students, and there shouldn't be political protests on either side of an argument, and the regalia should be, sanctioned, right? The regalia is certain people have to wear certain regalia. A Ph.D. that wears the Ph.D. regalia. The master students, wears the master's hood. and the bachelor's degrees will wear, a bachelor regalia, and that defacing the cap should be a no-no. So anything additional to the regalia that hasn't been approved by the university should be a no-go. And I think that the university and the president should enforce that. Unfortunately, what happens is you got these identity politics that's going on within the student body, where they'll have some sort of ribbon around their neck, doing some sort of protest for whatever, and it's not part of the official regalia. I think that's wrong. That's my take on it. I don't think that these things should be protest centers, like what happened with Jerry Seinfeld, and that's what Fox News is going to talk about here. So I just think that these students should have more discipline and realize when it is appropriate to have civil discourse about a certain issue and when not to. Unfortunately, what happens is there are people that don't understand there are boundaries. And this goes to a bigger issue here. If you look at X, or if you look at social media, or you look at Twitter or Rumble or Bitchute, and you say something, you tweet something, you post something, you do a video on something, and there's comments, right? There's nothing wrong with some comments about a particular issue. Some people will agree with you, some people will not, right? But I think that there are times when there are individuals that go beyond the normal discourse of proper etiquette. And so what happens is that they'll follow you, and then they'll try to post stupid stuff, all right? Either troll you, or what will happen is that they will have a narrative that is against what you're saying, and they keep on posting video clips, or just to bombard your post on these different social platforms. It's very prevalent on X. There's certain people that will that's all they do all day is actually what I call litter. They're literally littering on your feed, all right? And they're trying to accrete users to have a certain mindset. So there's a loss of etiquette. People going on X and posting and reposting the same stuff on other people's channels to try to make a statement is like something very similar to these commencements. There is a time and a place for civil discourse, and there is freedom of speech, but there is a point where it's like you're overdoing it and you're taking advantage of other people's channels, and there's a lack of decorum, there's a lack of ethics, there's a lack of professionalism that has been happening, and this has seeped from adults all the way to children, right? Because these kids that are coming out of college now are children. They're still children. They're very immature. So it's it's very similar to, let's say you have a yard, right? Okay, you have let's say you're living in suburbia, right? And it's not appropriate for other people to put signage on your property, right? It's actually illegal because they're trespassing. But the thing is that there is this lack of decorum, right? So I think this is the reason why social media is losing there's two things that are happening. It's losing its ability for good communication, and it's become nothing but a shouting match, a Jerry Springer event. And it's sad. And not only is it in the cyber world, but now it's getting into events where there's an event and then you have someone that's in the audience that shouts down the speaker for whatever reason because they don't like their opinion or they don't like, you know, their perspective on something. It's disruptive and it has lack of courtesy. Now there is nothing wrong with disagreeing and there's nothing wrong with civil discourse. But when you are overtaking an event in the real world, or even overtaking, let's say, spaces, someone invites someone to talk and that person ends up, you know, hogging the mic and saying things that are very inflammatory. That's not civil discourse, and that is not that there's not kind of a code of conduct that one should be following to have a civil society. That kind of conduct actually devolves the society, and we get the things that we're starting to see on campus. So I guess the big takeaway is that these things that are happening on campus, disruption of the public space, is happening also in cyber, because these channels are somewhat quasi-public spaces. But people shouldn't be having poor hygiene with constantly posting and trying to troll these channels. It's poor etiquette. And you're not going to get to the root of problems by being immature. And this immaturity is happening not just with the 20-year-olds or younger in social media. These are happening with people that are in their 50s. They're acting like kids. And there's a lack of decorum. There's a lack of professionalism. And there's a lack of code of conduct. And this is what we have lost in our country. You know, and I have this phrase, you know, we need to, you know, support the country by having the strengthening of God, country, and family, right? God, because what has happened is this religion has gone out the window in the United States in general terms, because we have a very secular society. We don't have a strong family unit because there's a lot of single mother situations. There's the abortion issue. There is, you know, lack of consideration of life, especially in utero. There is this lack of desire for family formation. Part of it is financial, but a lot of it is psychological. You know, so there is these three: God, country, and family. People hate. You're starting to see people are hating the country. It is beyond acceptability. It's beyond normal discourse to take down the American flag or burn the American flag. Well, that's just freedom of speech and blah, blah, blah. No, it's a manifestation of a hate for the country. And when you hate your country, you don't want to have family formation. You don't have a strong idea of protecting life, especially in utero. And you don't have some sort of morality that is usually rooted in religion. You're lost. The society is going to break. So realize these behaviors that you see in social media do creep into the real world. And we see it today. Lack of respect by the board of, let's say, a city council with a citizen that is concerned about a particular issue, let's say smart meters or whatever. and the board doesn't want to listen, and they don't let them speak, and so it escalates, right? It wouldn't have escalated if the board let them speak. Or what is happening in the school system, where there's this gender fluidity that's being promoted, and the parents are starting to realize what the teachers were doing, especially when they were doing home school through Zoom during the crisis, and they started hearing what was going on in the classrooms. And when the parents get upset and they want accountability from the board and the teachers, it becomes a free-for-all, because there's a lack of respect of the concerns that the parent has, where the board feels as though that they are omnipotent. Nothing can touch them. And so it escalates. We're losing the proper decorum. And I think it's magnified, it's amplified in social media. It's not good for the country if you want a stable, productive citizenry.
Anti-Israel agitators walking out of Jerry Seinfeld's commencement speech at Duke University, with some of the crazies chanting "Free Palestine." Jerry, Jerry. And that wasn't the only unhinged weekend walkout. Columbia University grads were wearing zip ties, and one woman ripped up her diploma on stage. You know what? I'll go with the last one. Ripping up your diploma on stage, Jesse. Do you think that she should have ripped up her resume as well because she doesn't have a chance of getting a job? Alvin Bragg will probably.
Well, no. It goes back. Remember what I said, decorum. This thing goes all the way back to the first State of the Union address that President Trump did. And he handed the speech to Nancy Pelosi and Pence, Vice President Pence. And at the end of the speech, what did Nancy Pelosi do? She ripped it up. She stood up and ripped it up. See, there's a lack of decorum. There's a lack of respect for the presidency. You don't have to like the president as a person, but you need to respect the presidency. You need to respect the position of the speakership of the House of Representatives, or the office of the vice presidency. There needs to be some desire to have a functioning society and not constantly at war with each other. So this behavior that Nancy Pelosi did does percolate over the years. Now, what was this? This was like, maybe it wasn't the first State of the Union address, but it was a State of the Union address for the president. It may have been the second one, but either way. But these students most likely saw a clip or saw the whole thing. And don't you think that kind of seeps into the mind of these students? Now, obviously, ripping up the speech was very disrespectful for Nancy Pelosi, right? But you can take it up a notch, where you have people that literally are willing to tear up the Constitution. And this falls in that bucket of lack of consideration for the country. This is a major problem. You got a bunch of kids that have seen 70 and 80-year-olds acting like immature people. Waters and Pelosi They both said, go attack if you don't like what they're doing. They're both Democrats. These Democrats want to destroy the country. And so now you have a bunch of children coming up on stage, coming from the Ivy League, all right, that literally, if they don't like something, they'll have a tantrum. They'll tear it down, they'll burn it down. What it is, it's BLM with intelligence. That's what's happening there. They've just sucked in some of that BLM movement. They've sucked in some of that immaturity from Nancy Pelosi and Waters. And what do we have now? We have immature Ivy Leaguers that are tearing up their diploma and trying to make a big statement. Do you think their parents were proud? Do you think that they will, that's a once in a lifetime event? And she totally destroyed it. Female, not very pretty. You know, there's this kind of like, how do I want to phrase this? There's just people letting themselves go, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
Well, graduation is just as much as it is about the students as it is about the parents. Dad has been saving for years. He's been pinching pennies. He wasn't able to get the hot rod that he wanted. But now the tuition is paid for. He wants to take a photo, have lunch, and have a drink. He doesn't want to have to explain to the grandparents why Lizzie just walked off. They think Lizzie didn't even get a diploma. It's very confusing. So if I were to give anybody advice, I would say, do your little Hamas thing when you accept the diploma.
And then on top of their cap, it has a phrase, you know, for, you know, the Palestinian cause. You know, this is where the school needs to say, you got that on there? You take it off, here's another cap. No go. You don't walk if you look like a billboard for some sort of protest.
Free Palestine, and you walk off. You just left Seinfeld. You don't get to hear what Jerry Seinfeld's advice was. This guy was the biggest star of the 90s besides Greg.
Thank you.
It was a star at Men's Health, less shiny, but still gleaming. This guy, he's wealthy, he has a young wife, he's a celebrity. Don't you want to learn from someone like that? And so what he did was he goes, the key to life is hard work, relationships, and exercise. And he's right. I would only add one thing, food. I'm reading this book about inflammation, Judge. I'll give it to you afterwards. It is just astounding. No, not you personally, but we could all use better diets. But it's like they were choosing ignorance.
I haven't seen this video, but I've been saying to my channel, a big part of the anti-aging protocol and to help to boost up your immune system is to bring down inflammation. It's about neutralizing pathogens with the structural nanosilver. It's about bringing down inflammation with turmeric and ashwagandha and other supplements. It's about eating properly. It's about getting proper rest, right? And it's also bringing down those free radicals with strong antioxidants like C60. And now everyone is talking about it. Everyone's talking about bring down inflammation. I've been saying this for 4 years. 4 years. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about.
Anybody knows you never choose ignorance, you just stumble upon it like me sometimes.
Okay, Katie, thank you. By the way, I'll take the book. Katie, you know, Duke University was very different from the kids at Columbia. I mean, what do you attribute the difference to? I mean, is it, you know, Columbia, they stormed the administration building, and Duke is totally different. A few malcontents walk out, but they pretty much are yelling, Jerry, Jerry.
Yeah, consequences for
what's it
actions,
about?
maybe. Consequences for actions, geography. Columbia's in New York City, Duke is in North Carolina. You know, Jerry Seinfeld is someone who stopped going to college campuses a long time ago to do stand-up because it just would be like this. But the facts are that the majority of students around the country don't believe in this pro-Hamas, pro-terrorism ideology that's ruining things for everybody else because they believe in Western society, creativity, the First Amendment, keeping their heads, women's rights.
I'm going to diverge here. It's really cool for the hooding during a PhD. So anyone that had a PhD and they have the hooding ceremony, usually the hooding ceremony is separate from the actual commencements. But it's a cool, you put so much effort, you're studying a lot, you write a body of work that is new to whatever your discipline is, and you get there and it is such a really energized, really cool day, right? And it's sad to see it kind of tarnished by these kinds of events where you have these protests that are happening. It's sad. It really is sad. Now, you probably don't see too many PhDs doing the protesting. Most of them are undergraduate.
Those types of things. And to Jesse's point, for them to walk out and not want to listen and learn from someone who has had a very successful career and life in America, too bad for them. And it just represents the larger liberal ideology of ripping things down constantly instead of building them up, whether it's ripping apart your diploma or destroying the commencement speech for everybody else. And for Jerry Seinfeld to get protested,
she's right. She's totally right. So this anchor is totally right. There is a mindset of just destruction. Tear down the flag, rip up the speech from the president, destroy the constitutional Bill of Rights, destroy capitalism. They're in destruction mode. And it's just, we're not going to be a productive society if we don't have God, country, and family. It's really simple.
More about anti-Semitism than it is about anti-Israel protesting.
This Sunday Biden is giving a speech at
all right, it was Columbia. It said School of Social Work. Columbia University School of Social Work, Friday. See what I mean? There's certain groups of people coming out of university that's being indoctrinated to be anti-capitalist, anti-democracy. There is this similarity towards this Mao revolution that was going on in China. There's an American flair to it, but there's this takedown of everything that made America good. Now, it doesn't mean that there's not flaws. Everyone has flaws. Every country has flaws. But I'm pretty sure that if we follow what they want, which is not capitalism and not a constitutional republic, we are going to be a weaker country.
Is about anti-Israel protesting.
Harold, this Sunday Biden is giving a speech at Morehouse, which is
Historic Black College in Atlanta, or middle school.
Yeah, and apparently some of the students are not happy already, and one saying generally the feeling on the ground is we don't want them here. We're obviously being used to score political points.
I think one of the great problems in education in our society today, whether it's education in school or what we like to do with our kids, it's a really unfortunate trend where we are encouraging people to only want to be around easy tables in life. One of the reasons I love being around this table, the night you all have me, is that the conversation is always stimulating. It sometimes can be a little combative, can be a little disagreeable, but we all have a healthy conversation, and I walk away from it having learned, and I hope I impart something that may make people think. Listening to these kids, I listen to what you said. He is successful, but even if he wasn't, you didn't mean it this way, you nor Katie. Even if he wasn't successful, the man has accomplished something in life, and he's lived his life. He's had the ups and downs. He's had more ups than he has had downs. He didn't talk politics in his speech. He said, in addition to what you said, Jesse, he said, find something where you love the good parts and don't mind the bad parts too much. Now, he's a comedian. He loves to sort of make fun of things and give a little satire to what he's trying to say. But I hope the kids took that at heart. That for those that walked out, I hope they actually learned how to protest. They didn't walk out, Greg, and say, to your point, you made the point earlier about the Hamas, that those who are LGBTQ hate Israel so much they'd rather be with people who might kill them if they were aligned with them. But I didn't hear them say, Hamas, take the deal for a ceasefire. Free the Israeli and American hostages. America, we think you should do differently there. This is them talking, but all they did was free Palestine and walk out. I don't think we teach kids. We're not teaching Americans. We're not teaching citizens how you protest. And frankly, worst off, we're not teaching people how to be around hard tables. Because hard tables can be fun. They can be interesting. They can be uplifting. And at the end of the day, you can push everybody forward to get the higher ground. So thank you, Jerry Seinfeld, for standing up, being there, and even speaking when those kids walked out.
Greg, UNC Chapel Hill, they are now moving to divert DEI funds to police and public safety. These are the kids who fought for the American flag and held it up.
Typical historic white college. You don't ever hear that. I think, it's funny. It all comes down to what Harold said, fun. Seinfeld is fun. And the people that you see on the other part of this equation hate fun. That woman that tore up her diploma, that was a diploma for social work. It would have been more of a travesty if she tore up like one of those paper placemat menus from IHOP. That's what it's worth. Seinfeld makes a really good point about privilege in his speech. He says, yeah, I came from a place of privilege, but so do you guys. You're graduating from Duke. I want to add to that and say, yeah, you should use your privilege, but if you don't, fine, be a loser. No one's telling you to use it. No one's telling you not to use it, except you. If you're rejecting the idea of privilege, then you need to reject your diploma. You should.
That's right. And here's the issue that I've been saying on other videos, especially for the ones that are at Harvard. If you don't like what Harvard's doing, don't go there. Don't try to change the university to your fitting so you can piggyback the cachet of the historical significance of the university, all right, or its prowess in commerce, right? But what happens is these students, they want to control the university. It's not that they are a guest at the university as a student. And this is going to trickle into the workplace where they're going to work for a company. And what will happen is they'll take over the company through all these agendas. And I think that's somewhat is what's happening with Google. They think they own the place. We're seeing it with the immigration in New York. Well, you have this illegal immigration, the squatting, and this expectation that the society will pay for their illegality of being in New York here by breaking border laws. Why should the citizens of New York have to pay for this? Well, or see it. See, there's this lack of consideration of others. All right? There's nothing wrong with going through the process legally to be an immigrant to the United States. It's highly commendable. But when you're circumvent the law, when you're not following the rules to be a citizen, don't be surprised that other laws are broken too. And this is what we're seeing in New York. Now, that doesn't mean everyone's like this, but the point is that there's this lack of consideration. They don't care what damage they cause because they think that it's just a freebie. And this is dangerous for the society. It causes crime and it causes less productivity in the society. And inflation starts to go up, cost of living goes up, safety goes down, And and then there's usually a white flight out of the environment. This is what happened. A white flight that took place in Detroit, and then they went to the suburbs, and the only ones that were left were the blacks, and the city just decayed.
On your resume, because that's privilege, you should take a vow of poverty. Anything that's related to your privilege, you should reject, because everything you do in life is related to your privilege. A lot of people who say they don't have privilege have more privilege than they're willing to let on. On the whole, though, when you look at the numbers, was what, like 40 people?
Yeah.
You're seeing the literal example of the radical math. It's just a few idiots, but they pretend to be more imposing, whether on social media or by having groups, far left groups sponsoring them. And that should be a message to the colleges and to the Democratic Party. Why are you so scared of a tiny faction? Why are you held hostage by the nuttiest people in your party or even outside your party? I mean, they're afraid of these people. Maybe it's because they fear their anti-Semitic slip is showing. I don't know. But like you go like, why are you know what? The right wing has zanes. They do, but they bubble up from the bottom. They're the QAnons from Reddit. But the Democrats, they come from above. They come from the professors. They come from the media. They come from these, these weird organizations.
The White House.
The White House. Yeah, that one. Anyway, that's enough out of me.
Click here to subscribe to the.
It goes back to God, country, and family. And if you don't have a strong foundation on those three pillars, you're going to have a society that's going to be weak. Then you're going to have individuals that are weak. It's going to be interesting, to see, what actually transpires during commencements this year. But I suspect that at Harvard, there's going to be quite a bit of protesting through people saying stuff and through wearing stuff on their regalia, pushing the Palestinian cause, pushing the Hamas cause. And you know what? I think the university, there should be a rule, that this is how you dress, this is how you respect the regalia, and this is how you respect the commencements. Discipline. That's discipline. I had a conversation just yesterday. I think that kids today should be forced into 2 years of military service, 2 or 3 years of military service. And, that would help pay for school. That would help them get discipline, that help them get in shape, right? So there's lots of benefits to this. But it would also instill discipline and honor to country.
Too much dramatic scene right now where there's more of an indiscriminate attack going on at the site of evacuation centers. These are a group of the schools in the Jabalia refugee camp where hundreds of families have been sheltering inside these schools. These are evacuation centers operated and managed by UNRWA, the United Nations for Palestinian Refugees, and more people are trapped inside these centers, unable to leave. Those who managed to leave, they actually managed to get away from the area under TVs fired by machine guns and by attack drones that kept chasing them out of Jabalia refugee camp. It's important to point out Jabalia refugee camp is the most densely refugee camp across the Gaza Strip. We're talking about 2 square kilometers where at least 120,000 people live inside this refugee camp. The vast majority of them have been displaced in this war and have been in and out of the refugee camp depending on the military operations area. But this time the Israeli military seems to be adamant to push deeper into the center of the refugee camp, pushing more people into enforced displacement, as well as causing this shocking level of destruction, as we were told by civil defense crew on the ground. Remaining public facilities, residential buildings are destroyed or severely damaged by the Israeli military.
And also, videos are emerging from Palestinian groups. What do they tell us about the fighting and the battles which are raging?
Yes, well, both in Jabalia and the northern part and Rafah city, reports of extreme confrontation between Palestinian fighting groups and Israeli military and its invading forces on the ground in Rafah. We're looking at reports and footage of the Palestinian
there is
groups conducting.
obviously there is collateral damage and civilians are getting killed in Gaza. But just look at that picture, and it's a little bit small for the audience here. But just look at that picture. All right, this is a street that the buildings have been destroyed. All right, but the soldiers have to walk through to clear that. Now, you just talk to any soldier that served it, recently, especially let's say in Afghanistan or Iraq, all right, and that had urban combat, and they'll tell you getting through that is really, really, really difficult. And it's almost impossible to prevent casualties on the civilian side because you don't know who's friend or foe. And it's a dense situation. That's pretty intense. That people that are in the armed services going through that's an intense environment. And unfortunately, these quote journalists on Al Jazeera and other channels aren't really paying attention to that. Now, there is collateral, obviously there's collateral damage that's going on. But it could be a hell of a lot worse. A hell of a lot worse. If you don't believe me, just talk to a veteran that actually has fought and stuff like that.
The street to street and building to building combat classes with the Israeli military, just taking advantage of the maze of rubble that created by the shocking level of destruction in the area and helping Palestinian fighting groups in maneuvering in the area. Similar situation in Jabalia as well, where the Israeli military is stating in a statement that they have been targeting infrastructure and strongholds for Hamas. At the same time, we're looking at this comeback of Palestinian fighting groups and pushing against the Israeli tanks and armored vehicles in the area. There were earlier reports of at least 12 Israeli soldiers that were killed in an ambush. This has not been verified by or hasn't been verified by the Israeli military yet. The statement talks about a group of soldiers who were injured in Jabalia, as well as more of them in Rafah city.
All right, thanks so much, Hani Mahmoud there. Slovakia's Prime Minister Robert Fico has been shot several times and is reported to be in life-threatening condition in hospital. The shooting occurred in the town of Handlova, north of the capital Bratislava. He was shot after a government meeting. A suspect has been detained. The Slovak president has expressed shock over the incident. Elena could.
All right, let's go to the Hill on this protesting at Duke.
Speaker at Duke University, where his own kid was graduating from. Let's listen to what he had to say.
So on my staff in the 90s, we had a lot of Harvard guys. They were fantastic, but I could never understand why these guys were so embarrassed about being from Harvard. They would never talk about it. They would never mention it. I'm not talking about Harvard now. I'm talking about the way it used to be. You're never going to believe this. Harvard used to be a great place to go to school. Now it's Duke.
As a reminder, Harvard University President Claudine Gay resigned after her controversial congressional testimony about anti-Semitism and facing allegations of plagiarism. Now, just last week, Jerry Seinfeld also called out wokeness when he was interviewed about comedy by the New Yorker's David Remnick.
There'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. When you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke, well, that's the end of your comedy.
It seems to be a family.
Commercials.
It doesn't take much. Helping the ASPCA give an animal in need the care. See?
It seems to be a family affair, as Seinfeld's wife recently made headlines for donating to a UCLA pro-Israel protest. It's one of the few protests where there was physical violence by a pro-Zionist mob against the protesting students. So it's not surprising that a handful of pro-Palestine students booed Seinfeld and left before his speech started. Many on X weighed in on that viral moment. Author and Twitter influencer Nick Adams wrote, quote, "If you can't handle a speech from Jerry Seinfeld, your college has failed to prepare you for the real world." But popular X user Adam celebrated the moment, writing, quote, "Bravo to the Duke students who walked out of their commencement ceremony right as smug Zionist Jerry Seinfeld is introduced to speak." Now, it's worth noting that a number of pro-Israel commentators on the app very specifically characterized the walkout as anti-Semitic. Fred Gutenberg, who is known as a parent of a Parkland child, the shooting child, tweeted, "Students walked out of Duke."
I don't think it's an anti-Semitic statement by the students that walked out. It's disrespectful to the university and all the attendees. And this is the problem. This is that they don't realize that their behavior has a perniciousness that will seep into society. It's not just this event. It's going to be on the street corner. It's going to be in the workplace. It's going to be on the social media. It's going to be this perniciousness of their activities will be pervasive.
Thursday commencement today because the speaker was Jewish. They walked out to confirm they are anti-Semitic and that this is about hatred of Jewish people. Who did they walk out on? The comedian Jerry Seinfeld. There were a couple along those lines. Other pro-Palestinian Jewish commentators pushed back, including Jerry Seinfeld. Brian Krasenstein of the famously liberal Krasenstein brothers also made a similar comment, saying Jerry Seinfeld's speech at Duke University was announced and it was immediately drowned out by 3 Palestine chants. Newsflash: just because someone is Jewish doesn't mean they are against peaceful Palestinians. Stop being ignorant to the point of hateful bigotry. And again, many people pointed out to him that Jerry Seinfeld, not only did his wife make this donation, but that he and his family took a trip to a West Bank, illegally occupied West Bank training facility to practice shooting at Palestinian targets with the IDF. This is someone whose ideology is very known. And again, conflating anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism does make Jewish people more broadly a target.
This is why I keep on saying the Westphalian construct is not going to work with this conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. The West Bank is going to fall, and it's going to be the ownership of Israel over time. The same thing with Jerusalem. That's the big thing. That's the big elephant in the room.
In a way that I don't think it furthers the interests of Jewish.
I actually just saw a screenshot of a tweet. She subsequently deleted it. Assuming that was not a doctored screenshot I was looking at, I doubt that, of Randy Weingart, the teachers union leader, saying the same thing, saying they're protesting Jew. Yes, I understand why they're protesting Seinfeld. It's for his views on Israel. It should be emphasized, as you did emphasize, that it was a very small protest. It was a extremely small number of students who actually did walk out, and I think that's totally fine. They have the right to do that. If you disagree with the speaker, you can make that known.
Just because you can do something, quote, have the right, doesn't mean it's moral, nor does it mean that it has good decorum. See, this is what I'm saying about the ethics of how people live. Just because it's right, like, you know, people have the right to, you know, just to troll people, right? They, you know, but they don't realize that, one, it's devaluing the social platform. You know, just because someone has a right doesn't mean it's correct to do. And this is where, you know, you start to hear it with individuals that are, especially in New York, because it's high population density. I've seen this with my own eyes, where you have a Black individual smoking at a bus stop and breathe and breathe the smoke out on elderly people, all right, that are sitting next to them and not caring what they do. And they're doing it on purpose. It's not like, oh, the wind blew and all this stuff. One, you're not supposed to be doing that at a bus stop. Two, you should have the mental acuity to realize that certain social behaviors should not be conducted in certain circumstances. So what happens is that these people have this mindset, well, I can do whatever I want. No one's going to do anything to me, but they don't care about the downstream effects of how it's affecting other people. This is what I mean by it's pernicious. And when you get enough people doing it, it's all over the place. It's ubiquitous.
And not participate, and there is no shortage of commencement speakers. Everyone's it's normal for them to be controversial to some group for some reason. My only objection is when universities cave to pressure to cancel their speaker and not have it, but that clearly didn't happen here, so it's all fine.
Unlike the UCLA, not UCLA,
I know who you mean.
school valedictorian who was not allowed to, I think it was Berkeley, who was not allowed to get her valedictorian address when she graduated over the weekend. When her name was called and she stood up, she received a thunderous applause that lasted a really long time, which did seem to suggest a great deal of support from the student body. And again, horrible for someone to have to work all those years for that accomplishment and to be denied that by the university. It's also worth noting that while the walkout appears to have been minimal, according to Brian Krasenstein, who again is very sympathetic to the pro-Israeli position here, he says that there were quite a few chants of free Palestine, something that he characterized as drowning out Jerry Seinfeld's speech. Maybe we should talk about the speech briefly. What did you make about those remarks?
So I actually read that.
Before we get his opinion, this is PNN, and I have to go to commercial. Please get my structural nano silver soap, because there's a lot of liberals out there that are messing up the place. You got to make sure that you stay clean. So go and get these high quality soaps that I have. They're made from structural nano silver. I have it in different versions. I have this one in lavender. This one's in charcoal tea tree, peppermint, lemongrass, and oatmeal spice. So if you're a parent and you happen to have a student that is an ultra liberal, you can wash their mouth out with these soaps, because they need discipline. But if you don't have a crazy liberal in your household, get a couple bars of this, use it every day. It's high quality soap. They smell great. And you should get a couple bars of this. Go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. In addition, people have brain fog. Now, there's multiple reasons why they have brain fog, because of what happened in 2020 and the aftershock of it, or because they're not filtering their water, or they're eating poor food. But the bottom line is go to my store and get Clarity Factor. It will help to remove that brain fog, help to increase your mental acuity. I take it twice a day. Most people take it once a day. It'll help you focus on your work, either in school or at work, or even if you're retired, and just to keep that mental acuity going. Take this every day as a supplement, all right? But you also need to make sure that you filter your water, and you need to make sure that you're eating good food, all right? What I mean by good food, stay away from the GMO, stay away from the processed foods, stay away from the junk food, all right? And there's a synergistic effect. By changing your lifestyle and getting proper supplementation, your body is going to perform better. So go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Clarity Factor. And lastly, vitamin D3. You need to take this every day. I take 10,000 units of this, so it's 2 soft gels. I take one in the morning and one in the evening. So this will help with cardiovascular health, help to absorb calcium, so you're going to have better bones and joints. And it's a cofactor for gene expression. You need this to help to get rid of infected cells so it can go into apoptosis. All right? When cells get infected and they can't go into apoptosis because you're low on D3, then it's your own fault. All right? But by taking D3, it'll help to get cells to go into apoptosis. So, and not only that, it's a cofactor for gene expression for other cellular processes. So please go to my store and take the vitamin D3 every day.
Just kind of a playful jab at Harvard. You know, you're talking to the audience for one college, so you make a little bit of, I think that was very non-specific. And I was looking a little bit, obviously I didn't listen to the whole speech, and it doesn't sound like his criticisms of Harvard actually ever did get more specific than that. I saw the speech characterized by the Atlantic's Connor Friedersdorf as pretty generic kind of life advice, you know, the sort of, usually these speeches are pretty generic, you know, some in my day, and here's how you can be leaders, and et cetera, and so on and so forth. My commencement speaker was Barack Obama, and I don't really remember what he said, but he was a great speaker, so that was a very exciting day for all of us. It seems like the actual remarks were not political and would not have offended anyone.
I literally don't even remember mine. I've been to so many commencements that I can't remember which one was mine, and which is, I think it was Bill Gates.
No.
Bill Gates was mine. I remember Bill Russell was in attendance. I think he got an honorary degree, and that was much more memorable and interesting to me.
Yeah, Obama was mine. This was 2010, truly at the height of his sort of popularity among progressive young people, the students at the University of Michigan. So he got a lot of applause. Yeah. They were very happy to have him.
No, I agree that it seems like Seinfeld's remarks were really minimal, but for the context of him being so kind of vocally supportive, he and his wife being so vocally supportive of Israel, I don't think that people would have read that much into it. It was more like a, you know, Duke is a very good school, but not an Ivy League school, and kind of playing on the tension between.
I don't think he even
ranked higher than most Ivy League.
Did he even like accuse them of killing comedy and not trying to make it illegal?
No. But to that point, I was going to bring up the fact that his new movie Unfrosted, which debuted I think last week on Netflix, as I understand it, had one of the worst Netflix debuts ever. It's got a 40% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I did watch. I don't know why. I started watching it.
Was it bad?
I started watching it, and we just couldn't turn it off. It's got an incredible cast. It's got a ton of people in it.
Melissa McCarthy, Hugh Grant.
And it's got clearly a lot of money sunk into it. He said that he made it during COVID, and it kind of does feel like that. Like everyone was sitting around with nothing to do, and so they made this film. It's got
what is it about?
COVID. It's about the invention of Pop-Tart. It's two rival cereal companies, Post and what makes Pop-Tarts.
Oh, is this what I saw the Don Draper pitch?
That's right.
Thing scene that's from this?
It's set in like the 50s or 60s, and it's got great period costumes and a lot of things that make you want to enjoy the movie. But it's very unfunny. So I do think it's kind of rich for him to be making these arguments about how comedy is dead when he just put out one of the least.
Well, he's not allowed to make it anymore.
Yeah.
The woke.
Evidently.
That does it for us today. No laughter here. It's illegal. Stop that. That's not allowed.
All right, let's see what Al Jazeera is saying about these weapons.
Are emphasized. Take us through the politics going on behind the scenes that one suspects is probably a part of this.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bottom line is this is an election year, and so Joe Biden has a rather difficult hand to play when it comes to satisfying just the various factions of the Democratic Party. You have the very significant, very powerful Jewish lobby that is largely Democrat and is looking for him to continue to support Israel. But at the same time, you also have the more progressive wing that is very largely youthful in nature and has been actively demonstrating all across the United States on college campuses. And then also you have that global protest that's been happening in world capitals internationally as well, saying that they're looking for conditions to be attached to the nearly $4 billion that's given to Israel every year in military aid. And so trying to balance that has been the challenge for Joe Biden. And so that's what this has been. It's been essentially walking the fine line, sending a message to Israel that things are not going to be automatically sent all the time, especially with the more than 35,000 Palestinians that have been killed. This is an example, a rare example of the U.S. using the tool and leverage that it has to send that message, but at the same time, still continuing with its commitment to Israel that it has done for decades.
All right, thanks so much, Kimberly Halkett. Oh, still ahead on Al Jazeera, Ukraine's president cancels all upcoming foreign visits. Russia escalates its attacks on the Kharkiv region. And it's scored the Premier League.
What I'm noticing with Al Jazeera is that what's going on with Israel, it's not really dominating their news coverage. So that's what I meant, that things kind of seem a little kind of slow. Let's take one more video and then we'll see what they have to say about Trump.
We're here in court with President Trump standing with him, but we need you to stand with him too. Go to DonaldJTrump.com, support President Trump and his efforts.
Good morning and welcome to Rising. Thanks for joining us, and a belated Happy Mother's Day to anyone watching to whom that label applies, and of course our own mothers. Did you have a nice weekend?
I did. I went home to Cleveland for the weekend. Was able to celebrate with my mother, aunt, and grandmother. It was a good time. How about yourself?
Fantastic. I was not able to see Mom, but I gave her a call, wished her a happy birthday, and I'm looking forward to going on a trip with her and my own grandmother in a few weeks to Florida. So that'll be a really nice little family reunion with cousins and everything.
That's nice. I was going to make a joke before you said that you were going to be visiting with your mom, saying that I call that the elder son special, when you just get a call. And your son pats himself on the back for remembering that his mother's day off. But you're doing the work. You're going to have a good vacation in a little bit.
All right. Well, let's get to our top story of the day. New polling released this morning, absolutely devastating for Joe Biden's electoral chances, showing that Donald Trump is leading President Joe Biden in 5 of the key battleground swing states. The New York Times, Philadelphia Inquirer, Siena College poll. Love how many of these polling firms work together. So many names, so many numbers we're going to throw at you. But Biden is down 12 points in Nevada, 10 points in Georgia, 7 points in Arizona and Michigan, and 3 points in Pennsylvania. Wisconsin is the only battleground state where Joe Biden is currently ahead of Donald Trump. He leads there by 2 points. Now, Biden won all 6 of those states in 2020. The findings reveal that many voters' feelings on Biden's handling of the war in Gaza, discontent with Biden also on the economy, and so many other issues.
One Nevada voter told the New York Times, quote, "It is concerning when I keep seeing press come out of the White House where they keep saying the economy is good. That's really weird because I'm paying more on taxes and more on groceries and more on housing and more on fuel." Here's CNN's Fareed Zakaria's take on what November could look like for Biden.
Here's my take. When President Biden made clear he was going to run for re-election, I had a sense of what his election strategy was and thought it was an intelligent path to victory.
This boy is Bilderberg.
After the chaos of COVID and Trump, Joe Biden would stand for normalcy and a rising tide of good economic news. I have to admit, none of this is playing out as I thought it would. Trump is now leading in almost all the swing states. Trump could always embroil himself in some kind of scandal. But trend lines are not working in Biden's favor. He needs to do something bold and dramatic to seize the initiative on asylum policy, for example, and reverse these numbers. The one that troubles me the most is on the question of who was the more competent. Joe Biden led Donald Trump by 9 points in 2020, but Trump now leads by 16 points in January 2024. That 25-point shift could be a reflection of people's sense that the president's age is affecting his capacity to govern. And there's very little that Joe Biden can do now to change that perception.
So a couple other interesting findings here. So now if you look at just likely voters, but
please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the product that I have, turmeric. This will bring down the inflammation. It's part of the anti-aging protocol to help boost your immune system. Take this every day. They'll bring down that inflammation. It's also an antioxidant. Take it also with ashwagandha. They'll help to control your blood glucose levels and bring down that inflammatory response. Resveratrol is an antioxidant, and it'll also help to get rid of senescent cells. It's part of the anti-aging protocol. Vitamin C, very important to help boost your immune system. It's an antioxidant, and it also helps for skin health by cross-linking with collagen. And the good night formula is really important so you can get 3 cycles of REM sleep. By getting 3 cycles of REM sleep regularly, you're going to consolidate memory better. You're going to be detoxifying your body, and you're going to be well rested. So please go to my store. If you're not getting a good night's sleep, get the good night formula. It has melatonin and tryptophan and many other vitamins. And you need to boost your immune system. Really important in the, in the post era from the crisis that we went through in 2020. Take lignans. It's a powder. You mix it with your food, or you can mix it with water. Take it every day to help boost up your immune system. It's for males and females. They'll also help to stabilize and balance your hormonal levels. So this is a great immune booster. So please go to my store. I carry very high quality products. Go to my store and get the lignans. Take it every day.
and gets a little bit closer in some of the states, and he's trailing just narrowly then in Michigan and Pennsylvania as well. With RFK Jr. and the independent candidates in the mix, it basically doesn't change it. RFK Jr. is like at 10% in this poll, and he's taking from both Trump and Biden at this point. I think it's interesting that, frankly, Biden is more competitive in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin than he is. Trump is much more solidly ahead. Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, which are more they're more racially diverse states. Interesting. I think you can see the effect very clearly that Gaza is having a foreign issue on Biden, the dissatisfaction with younger voters, certain minority voters as well. If
I want to pause what Robbie's saying, because the live feed with Al Jazeera, I want to hear what this guest is going to say.
Global powers at that time simply didn't want to see or didn't see what was happening to the Palestinians.
Well, there's certainly an aspect to that, especially that Israel declared independence only 3 years after the end of Second World War, when we saw the unfolding of a Holocaust against the Jewish people. And it was a Holocaust that was basically taking place while Western powers were looking on, really, in the beginning. So Western powers did not actually come up to saving the Jews in the beginning, or at least in the 1930s. To wash their own sins for not really saving the Jews, I think that Palestinians had to pay the price, and the Western powers were complicit with Israel's.
How much has changed
inversions.
now? How much has changed today?
Well, but the thing is, Sammy, that we forget that in 1947, 1949, there was no live television.
Or social media.
Let alone social media. But clearly, it wasn't until the early 50s, in fact, that BBC came on live television. And not until 1991 with CNN coming on, and from Baghdad at the time, to do live news from the field. So the idea that this was happening in 1948 in the darkness or in silence and so on and so forth was also because, as one Arab famously said, we didn't know then, but we do know now. So what are we doing about it?
The Arab camp, that's changed a lot since 1948, right?
Well,
More divided.
They certainly were divided then, they were impotent then, but they just emerged out of colonialism. People forget that Syria, to a large degree, of course, Jordan and so on and so forth, these were countries that had just become independent of Western powers. They decolonialized, but they remained underdone.
See, they're, like I said, with the mainstream media and even our politicians in the Arab world, most of them are focused on this idea of Westphalian concepts. They don't say anything about the covenant. They don't say anything about what's written in the Old Testament. They don't say anything about what has been predicted in the prophets and in the New Testament. And they think that everything could be settled in the UN or through some sort of transnational body to have peace in the region. And that's not what's going to happen, because you have one group of people that don't want to get to relinquish their dome of the rock, right? And you have another group of people that want to put up a new temple, right? So there's this real big battle of who's going to have that temple, all right? Now, the way it's supposed to work, the Muslims can't reboot the temple. It doesn't work that way. They don't do it. They can't do the sacrifices. They can't. They know that. They can't do the peace offerings. They can't do the wave offerings. They can't do the Paschal Lamb offerings. They can't do any of that. All right. It's only the Jewish people, and it's only certain types of Jewish people that can do it. All right. So it's a very small minority of people that can make this work. All right. Peace will come onto the earth when this happens. But to get there, it's up to us. Do we want it to be bloody, or do we want it to be peaceful? Now, the thing here is that until the soul root of Esau is battled, and this soul root of Esau that I'm talking about is really this Hamas, Hezbollah, and Iran. All right. Until Israel, or the soul root of Jacob, kills it off, it's going to be very difficult to get the temple there. But this isn't going to reach homeostasis through some sort of looking at, 100-year history. We're talking thousands of years of history here. It's not going to play well if you think that you're going to get homeostasis with a Westphalian logic set. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Now, some people don't understand what I mean by the soul root of Esau. All right, it has been predicted. It's been prophesized that there's going to be a battle, and these battles, there's going to be an alignment with Ishmael and Jacob. All right, this is part of that peace accord that we were seeing with Trump. All right. And that it's going to battle Esau. Now, some nations have a little bit of both. Some nations have Esau and Jacob. Some nations have Esau, Jacob, and Ishmael. Some nations have only Ishmael. And then not only that, there are individuals that have a different composition. Some people are all Jacob, some people are partially Esau and Jacob, some people are all. So there is this spectrum. But in general terms, Esau is what has to be battled. Now, people would say Esau is also aligned with Edom, and that is like Rome and all this. All right. And that's partially true. But these nations are also having parts of their soul root through Jacob. And this is where the rub is for the United States. We are at a fork in the road. Do we take most of our soul root is part of Jacob because of this Christian Judaic base? All right. Most of our soul root is Jacob. But there is a soul root of Esau that's part of the country and part of the people, the individuals that are in the country. All right. And of course, there are individuals that have Ishmael too, but in the average, in the aggregate, there's more Jacob than Esau. But we can make decisions that help Esau soul root and hurt Jacob's soul root, even though we have that our percentage of soul root is more affiliated with the attributes of the soul root of Jacob. We can make the wrong decision, even though our soul root has a higher percentage towards the opposite. All right, that's what's happening. And this is what I mean by the curse will happen on the United States if it picks the wrong path, if it aligns itself with the wrong soul root. If it aligns itself with Hezbollah, Hamas, and Iran, the United States will be cursed. And the empire will crumble quicker. The empire is going to crumble, but the empire will crumble much quicker. If it aligns itself with Jacob, it will be the yoke for the Middle East to become a prosperous region of the world. This idea of the century of China, no, it's going to be a century of the Middle East and India.
Domination of Western powers. But today, 75 years later, they are not dominated, they are not colonialized or anything, but they're still impotent largely. They're still divided largely, and I'm talking mostly about Arab regimes, about Arab governments. So while they are paying lip service to the question of Palestine, while they are making declarations in support of Palestine or against genocide in Palestine, but in terms of real term support to ending the genocide, there's basically nothing being done by Arab regimes.
Are things a little bit different when it comes to how the Gaza?
According to people like him, this genocide has been happening for multiple decades. Yet, the Palestinian population is increasing. How can you have a genocide with a population that is increasing over time? That is not a genocide. But I'm telling you, it's the battle of the souls between the twins. And they don't have the blessing, and they don't have the birthright.
Or maybe realigning global solidarity, strengthening global solidarity with the Palestinians as a dispossessed people, even if, as you said, Arab states are, quite impotent.
Look, I say that with heavy heart. Until middle of last year, Palestine was going to become more like a comma or a semicolon in the larger picture in our world today, as Arabs were really in the process of fully normalizing with Israel, the United States, Western Europe, and other countries, including Russia and China and India, were all not just normalizing relations with Israel, they were expanding economic and political relations with Israel, all at the expense of Palestine. So since October 7, and mostly, notably since Israel's unfolding genocide in plain sight and on the TV screens, as we just say, that really did lead to a backlash. And the backlash was across the board among movement for justice, equality, against racism around the world. But what we saw the last few weeks that was totally refreshing, totally encouraging and inspiring was the Generation Z, you know, the students, the young people and so on and so forth, especially in Western society, taking the floor and paying price, making sacrifices for a
Is that a serious challenge to the global power structure over dispossession, if we put it that way?
Well, look, in the immediate term, I don't think that's going to make any difference for the people in Jabalia, Gaza, or Rafah. But, you know, when you talk about Harvard, Columbia, and Oxford, Cambridge, Lausanne, Geneva, and so on and so forth, we're talking about the next generations of leaders around the world, the next elite, the next economic, financial, political elite around the world. So, yes, in terms of longer term, one cannot be but, as I said, inspired and hopeful that this new generation will be far better than their parents, the so-called X generation.
Marwan, it was good to have you in the studio. Thank you so much. And let's go back to Hanma.
It's going to be a sad world when those, quote, elite leaders get into power. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the multivitamin that I offer. It's a very high quality multivitamin, easy to digest, and it has all the minerals and the vitamins that you need to help as cofactors to maintain the proper cellular metabolism. Right? People don't realize that vitamins are really important as cofactors, and if you don't have enough of them at a regular basis, you're going to have poor cellular processing. So please go to my store and get the multivitamin as part of your supplement protocol. I have partnered up with Rainbow Herbals, and we have developed these deodorant bars. We have it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, and also citrus. These bars are for males and females, but not just that. You use it as a deodorant, but it will slowly help to detoxify your body. Why? Because it doesn't have any aluminum in it, doesn't have baking soda in it, and it has essential oils that are very high quality from the Himalayas. You can't get a higher quality deodorant bar than this. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get a couple bars for your household. They'll help to detoxify your body slowly, and it works great as a deodorant. So please go to the store and get the citrus or the peppermint, lavender, and tea tree version of the deodorant.
This many black voters in accordance with where the polls are, that would be like the best showing for a Republican among black voters since I think like Richard Nixon ran against John Kennedy. And then the economic woes not helping Biden with a lot of moderate voters, a lot of the anti-Trump Republican voters, they all out there. So it is just bad news on a lot of fronts.
Yeah, so with respect to Hispanic voters, the Times piece makes clear that Trump and Biden are essentially tied between 18 to 29-year-old Hispanic voters, even though that group gave Biden more than 60% of their vote in 2020. That's a huge shift. Trump does win more than 20% of black voters, but that's nothing as compared to what we're seeing with respect to the shift in Hispanic voters. The article also points out that in many respects, Biden is better off. Things have happened that should have advantaged Biden as compared to when we saw the last round of these not very good polls for Biden with respect to swing states, including him already starting a significant ad spend, the fact that Donald Trump is currently in the middle of a criminal trial. A lot of things that people thought were going to get better as we got closer to the election, including his posture in Gaza, have in fact gotten a lot worse. And I think the Gaza point is, of course, important to focus in on. There's some interesting kind of word on the street testimonial narrative commentary in this piece. But numerically, when it comes to Gaza, about 13% of voters who say they voted for Joe Biden the last time around, but do not plan to do so this time around, cite his foreign policy and specifically the war in Gaza. And of that 13% of people who said, I voted for him before, but I'm not voting for him this time, only 17% say that they think he's not sympathetic enough that they're not sympathetic enough with Israel. And in other words, it's people who think that he's being too sympathetic to Israel that are dragging him down. Again, 13% among people who, these are not swing voters, these are not maybe voters, these are people who have demonstrated that they will vote for Joe Biden, have voted for Joe Biden, have simply changed their mind over this one issue.
Well, and if he's losing, young, more progressive voters for this, even if that's not, the entirety of his base of support, but he's not gaining, he's not offsetting those losses with gains elsewhere, and he's losing, maybe his foreign policy, his stance on those things might not matter as much to some of those moderate, middle of the road suburban voters, but they're not he's not gaining their votes. They dislike him for other reasons. The economy, the attempts to spin the economic news coming from the White House, coming from sympathetic media, are falling on completely deaf ears. The electorate is not buying that argument at all. Prices still seem way too high for them in terms of groceries, housing, gas, all of those things. They are not buying the argument that the economy is turning around.
I also think Fareed Zakaria's point about the kind of confidence in the president might be a reflection of something that we knew from the beginning, and Biden, the Democratic Party, could have paid attention to from the beginning, which is that about 3/4 of the Democratic electorate did not want Joe Biden to be the candidate precisely because they did not see him to be either cognitively fit or that his age was going to be an issue. And it's hard for me to hear a stat about competency like that and not wonder if things, frankly, that are beyond Biden's control, namely his age and mental fitness, are really driving those numbers down. It's also worth noting that it doesn't seem like Donald Trump's trial, the hush money trial, is having any impact at all. The Times says that the survey offered little indication that the trial damaged the former president's political fortunes. So far, just 29% of voters in battleground states said that they were paying a lot of attention to Mr. Trump's legal woes, and 35% thought that the trial was likely to end in a conviction. So people so far at least aren't really paying enough attention. It doesn't seem to be moving the needle here. And I think your point is fundamentally the core one, that if Biden is losing votes on the left and not picking up votes anywhere else, he is doomed. And this is really telling, because the Democratic Party, they said this in 2016, they've been repeating it since then. They believe that they can fill in the gap of their core base voters ditching the Democratic Party by reaching out to moderates. You see the Biden campaign reaching out to Nikki Haley voters while really thumbing its nose at the left, seeing the growing discontent over the conduct in Gaza, seeing the growing discontent of the idea that American tax dollars are being spent on a conflict that doesn't seem to have any upside for the American people, and choosing instead to stay the course. It seems obvious here that if it doesn't go Biden's way in November, the idea that they're going to be able to blame this on the left as opposed to their own choice to basically rather lose the election rather than to abandon Israel, that's going to sit hard on the Democratic Party. And I think it's going to have to affect their strategy going forward into future elections. Can you get away with blaming the left anymore when you've made it clear to the American public that you would rather lose than veer from the kind of core geopolitical warmongering instincts that both parties have adopted over the history of this country?
Well, in both parties, someone is going to lose in November.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. The link is in the description of this video and all my videos. It's really important to take C60 every day. I have different configurations of this. I have it in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce configuration. You can get in coconut oil, avocado oil. This is the avocado 4 ounce. And you can also get it in extra virgin olive oil. All right. You take a teaspoon of it a day, and you take it every day, and you will notice a huge benefit over a very short amount of time. What are the things that you're going to start noticing? You're going to have more energy. You're also going to start noticing that if you work out, you're going to have better recovery time. You take it on an empty stomach, especially in the morning, for better absorption. But C60 will soak up those free radicals because free radicals cause damage to the cell. All right, they're called a reactive oxygen species. And when we get older, we get a buildup of oxidative stress, right? These free radicals increase and causes damage to the cells. Some of these cells go into senescence, some of them go into reversible necrosis, and others go into irreversible necrosis. As we get older, this buildup starts to increase. That's why when you look at people that are older, they seem to accelerate their aging at a certain point. Usually about 65, and you start seeing them age much quicker. But if you take strong antioxidants on a regular basis, and the earlier the better, and you take it continually, right? There are compound benefits by making sure that you are neutralizing those free radicals, all right? So by doing that, you have better healthy cells, better healthy tissue, and in addition, you have more ATP because the mitochondria will be healthier. And that means that you'll have better mental acuity because you need a lot of ATP being produced by your mitochondria for neuron transmission. And, you know, so take a strong antioxidant like C60 that I offer on my store. All right. It's part of the anti-aging protocol that helps to boost up your immune system because your immune system needs a lot of ATP and needs cells that aren't stressed, you know, have oxidative stress. So if you have less oxidative stress on your immune cells, you're actually going to have a better immune system. So please go to my store, get the avocado or the extra virgin olive oil or the MCT coconut oil in the 2 ounce, the 4 ounce, or the 8 ounce bottle. If you get the 4 or 8 ounce bottle, take a teaspoon of it a day. For the ones that get the 2 ounce, because they may be resource constrained, take a full dropper a day. But the point here is that it's really important to take it every day and soak up those free radicals. If you work out, take it before your workout, and you're going to notice that one, you're going to have more energy, and two, your recovery time is a lot less. Why? Because you're soaking up those free radicals that you're creating while you're working out. So if you take this, you're going to notice that your health and your tissues are going to improve. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com.
And that party is going to have to take a long, hard look in the mirror and say, how did we blow this?
Yes,
because either party could have turned this into, I mean, I don't know for sure, but it certainly seems like either party could have turned this into a landslide victory for their side with a different candidate other than the two that are running, with massive negatives, massive red flags that they're both contending with. They're frustrating their own supporters, but neither side was able to ditch their guy, and so we're in this like race to the bottom.
Yeah, and I will say Donald Trump is benefiting from not being in the White House and not having direct responsibility,
not having to take ownership
for the economy or for foreign policy or anything and the like. And he's also having the benefit of not being questioned directly by.
Wait a minute. Hold on, honey. She's making a real big mistake with her premise. The premise is that the economic instability that we have with inflation, all that, would have been independent of the president? No. The inflationary issue that we have today is because of a crazy liberal agenda that's raising taxes and spending too much damn money. And that's coming right from Biden's administration. Trump was the opposite. He wanted lower taxes and less spending. It's amazing. It's amazing. Her premise is just wrong. Just wrong.
and all adversarial media on what his actual positions on these things are. He instigated the TikTok ban. Now he says he's for the TikTok ban. He's flip-flopped all over the place on something like Pfizer surveillance. He says things like the war has got to end with respect to Gaza, but also I stand by my ally Israel. And it allows voters to project onto him whatever they want to be the case. And that is a real advantage for him. But I don't know that that actually...
Honey, newsflash, Biden has always been like this for his whole political career. Early on in his political career, he aligned himself with Senator Byrd in the KKK. He didn't care about blacks, honey. But then once it became expedient for him to align himself with a certain subset of the population that happens to have a different skin color, then he was their best friend. The guy swings in the wind. He doesn't have a moral compass. Case in point, look at how he was trying to destroy Clarence Thomas's confirmation when Biden was heading that committee. You look at the long history of Biden, and you will notice that he swings. He swings in the wind. All right? And he doesn't really care about the poor or the minorities. And then when you add in the pay-to-play stuff that was going on with Hunter Biden, right? And he's getting a kickback, of 10% for the big guy or whatever. The guy is on the take. He acts like a mob boss.
A substantive advantage for the American public when they get a candidate who is likely to be very similar to Joe Biden in a lot of these respects. Meanwhile, independent candidates like RFK Jr., Cornel West, and Jill Stein are constructively eliminated by not having a primary, by not allowing there to be any kind of debates. Donald Trump obviously has ditched all debates in the Democratic primary. The Democrats didn't allow there to be any primary whatsoever. And so what are the real options that are presented to the American public? What does it mean for us to have one of the largest, most powerful countries in the world where we claim to have this grasp on what democracy is? This is supposed to be an election about preserving a democracy. And people legitimately have two choices that they do not like and feel like they are locked in because our media system and our political system will not reveal to them that there are others waiting in the wings.
Well, as we mentioned last week, RFK Jr. will be attending the Libertarian Party convention later this month. Donald Trump is scheduled to speak there as well, and RFK Jr. has challenged Donald Trump to debate him while they're both at that convention, which will be in D.C.
Yeah, notably, I should say, when that happened, Jill Stein also followed up with RFK Jr., who had said that he would submit himself to a debate, but has declined to actually follow through with Jill Stein and the other third-party candidates. So I'd like to see if there's any movement on that as well.
Third-party debate would also be terrific. More rising right after this.
A third party would destroy this country. A uniparty would destroy the country even faster. All right, so that's the broadcast for today. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Also, please help support my work by donating. You can donate through Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee on my homepage of my website at the bottom of the homepage. You can also be a paid member to my Patreon account. If you're at a higher tier level as a member for my Patreon channel, then you get special benefits, and those special benefits are access to lectures that I have done on pulmonology, and shortly we'll be publishing immunology lectures. So you get access to some of those lectures depending on what level that you join at. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ebooks, get the supplements, get the medical lectures, and improve your health. If you follow what I've been saying, supplementation, proper diet, exercise, balancing, challenging your brain, talking to people, getting a little bit more spiritual, all right, bringing down that stress level, you're going to really improve your well-being and your mental acuity and your health. So pay attention to me and you'll be fine. All right. Thank you for listening and have a nice day.